All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another fantastic and exciting episode of the Fifth Dimension live video podcast. I'm one of your co hosts, Matthew J. Haas, and my other co host is with me as well, Mr. Dave Schumacher. What's up, Dave? We got another
Hey,
episode of the live Fifth Dimension live video podcast. What's going on, man?
uh, glad to be home from a long work trip, and it's just good to be back in snowy, cold Illinois. Ugh. Anyway, good to be back, and really looking forward to the show tonight. We got a great guest tonight, and once we're ready to roll here, I'll do a quick introduction, and we'll just dive right into it.
Yeah, yeah. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this. I'm actually a big fan of the topic for many years. I've never come across an experience with this, and I kind of hope not to, because some eyewitnesses and encounters have been pretty scary. So I've never been down that way as far as the Mothman goes. So yeah, it's going to be one of the topics we talk about with our guest. Um, just to get out of the way for our listeners and our viewers tonight, we do have a chat room. If you'd like to chat with us, go to our YouTube channel. It's the Fifth Dimension Live Video Podcast on YouTube. And if you go on YouTube, there's a chat box to the right of the video feed. So if you're watching us, it's to the right of the video. And you can also subscribe to our show by hitting the little bell in the top right hand corner. If you want to ask us or our guest questions in the live chat, you can do that. If you'd like to call in at any time later on, I'll give you the cue when you can do that. Our email is the fifth dimension radio show at gmail.com. You can also hit us up on Facebook and ask us questions there as well. So I'm gonna hand the reins over to Dave now, and Dave, give our lovely guest a good warm welcome.
Well, welcome to Allison Jornlin. How you doing, Allison?
Oh, very good. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you. So I got a little bit of your bio here I want to go through so people
Yeah.
kind of know your background and your experience and in the paranormal field. Allison's been investigating hauntings and other strange phenomena for more than 20 years. She was the recipient of Milwaukee Paranormal Conference's 2016 Wisconsin Researcher of the Year Award. She was inspired by Chicago's Richard Crowe, which I think we all definitely know that name, who kickstarted U.S. ghost tourism in 1973, which led to Allison developing Milwaukee's first haunted history tour in 2008. Since then, Allison's led numerous haunted history tours and presented talks on a variety of different topics, including poltergeists, UFOs, cryptids, demonic possession, and all things paranormal. She's been featured on TV, radio, and in print, and contributed to research in books, articles, and podcasts. She frequently works with paranormal teams to investigate historic buildings, providing written interviews and archival research to facilitate their efforts. Allison believes it's important to best think for yourself and, like us, always be suspicious of unsubstantiating claims of both believers and self-described skeptics. She suspects the truth lies somewhere in between these two extremes. The lives and work of those that have gone before oftentimes tell us a lot more than the current squabbles that are occurring in the field. I really like that part, actually. She studies the contributions of trailblazers like writer-researcher Catherine Crowe, the original ghost hunter who had introduced the term poltergeist into the English usage, and compiled scores of thrilling paranormal accounts into international bestseller called The Night Side of Nature, or Ghosts and Ghouls Seers, in 1848. She welcomes today's paranormal researchers to look to other cultures and times for the innovations that elude the popular mindset. She believes we will only advance paranormal research through a willingness to break through the current paradigm and seek solutions both cross-culturally and throughout history. You can hear Allison on See You on the Other Side, her brother Mike Huberty's weekly paranormal podcast. She frequently assists by planning podcast content, scheduling guests, and providing research writing and expert commentary. So we are thrilled to have Allison. And did I leave anything out there?
Well, I don't know. That's the long version of my bio, I think. Sorry about that.
Dave did some speed reading. That was pretty cool.
So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I think the reason you said you'd like to have me on tonight is to talk about some of my Mothman work. And I'd be glad to tell you about that. I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Mothman. And the whole idea behind that, why I did that, is because, let's just face it, I wanted to find a monster. You know, that's what I'm all about. I'm all about hunting for anomalies and trying to understand strange phenomena. And then back in early 2017, all these Mothman reports started coming to light in the Chicagoland area. And I was really thrilled because I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So it's not exactly just down the road, but it's close enough. I mean, if you're really committed, you go there, you seek it out, right? And for me, that was the motivator to, spend all my weekends in the Chicagoland area, because I thought, if something so strange is happening, if we're really having a Mothman flap, then I want to get my boots on the ground.
Nice.
So when was the first sighting? When did it all start in the Chicago area?
Well, Oz Park, April of 2017 is the first reported sighting, but then there were others reported later on, which actually were purported to have happened earlier. So the earliest is about February of 2017, although there also were a handful of reports that came to light in 2011. And so I'm the only researcher who's actually been to all the sighting locations from 2011 and 2017. So yeah, I've been to all of them, and I think more researchers should really get out there, because I mean, if you hear about something so big going on, my question is, why wouldn't you want to go and check it out, check out the actual scene? And that was my basic idea as a way to contribute. I think you got to get there so that you can see the details and see if the accounts provided by witnesses match up with the details of the surroundings. And that was the whole idea, to follow in the footsteps of witnesses and see what I could learn.
Okay. So when you go to the sites, what do you do? Just describe the process and kind of your procedure and what happens when you go visit a site.
Yeah. So the main purveyor of accounts is Lon Strickler's Phantoms and Monsters blog. So that was the main source of reports. Some of them came from the UFO clearinghouse as well. And but all those were like cross-reported. And Lon Strickler developed this, huge map of the sightings, to his credit. So the idea was, hey, I have a map, so I know where I can find these locations. So the whole idea was just to go to the location. It's a pretty simple idea, really. Go to the location, read the account as provided on Phantoms and Monsters, or in a few cases, other sources, and then look around and see what matches up and what doesn't.
Okay. So do you talk to the witnesses as well, if you can?
Well, yes, if I can, but that's kind of...
Do they want to talk to you?
That's kind of the issue here. In the original Mothman sightings, although there were earlier Mothman sightings in 1963, the biggest Mothman case, that we're all probably familiar with, is the one that John Keel, he researched extensively, the Mothman flap in West Virginia from 1966 to 1967, and then he covered all of those accounts in his seminal work, The Mothman Prophecies. So that's the one we know the best. So there's a few thousand people who live in Point Pleasant. And during those years, between 1966 and 1967, during that year period, at least 100 people came forward and gave their accounts publicly along with their names. Not all, but most of that 100 was able to stand by their accounts. And here's the difference. In the Chicagoland cases, you know, in Chicago, we have like 9 million people. And so what I've been able to verify in terms of witnesses is just a handful. And that's just a handful that's willing to come forward publicly. And I mean, that's concerning when you make that comparison between Point Pleasant and Chicagoland. And that at first got me wondering about how accurate or how verifiable these accounts are. And as a paranormal investigator, I understand wanting to keep witness data private if that's what they request. But there's also some concern here because I'm wondering about how much sharing how much sharing do you think should take place? I mean, if the witness is willing to come forward, do you think that cases should be allowed to be verified by independent investigators?
Yes, and I think that's a big problem in the field that doesn't happen. It's critical to have people who are independent or third party or just plain other investigators look into this. And yeah, they should, if the people don't want their names to be held private and they say, yeah, I'll talk to anybody or whoever wants to talk to me. Yeah, I absolutely think any investigator should be going down there. I just don't, I don't know why you wouldn't. And I don't know why people wouldn't want you to do that.
Right. I would get I mean, for me, like when I do my paranormal investigations, I always get verbal or written, and I try to get mostly written permission, you know, documented in some form or fashion on paper or email or, you know, some kind of document, you know, between you and that person that you have permission to do so. Do you do that too, or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
I mean, is it being discouraged to talk to people?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, originally, so I just started making the videos. I mean, I had no way to get in touch with witnesses because that data is not provided. So what I started to do is just making the videos. And then at some point, Lon Strickler noticed, because we have a podcast too, the CEO on the Other Side podcast. And so, you know, when these stories first started coming to light, you know, we had Lon on, and we had other investigators like Manuel Navarrete from the UFO Clearinghouse on with him, and then Tobias Whalen from Singular Fortean, who we know quite well and introduced to Lon. And so we had all these people on in a round table. And then from that and from my videos, I was allowed to be part of Lon Strickler's Chicago Phantom Facebook Messenger group. And so it's supposed to be it was called the Chicago Phantom Task Force. But I didn't really see a lot of information being exchanged through that forum, to tell you the truth. And the information that I mainly gained was just from the blog. And this became a big concern when there was one account in particular, and this happened in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood, or was purported to happen in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood in Chicago. So it happened in the summer of 2017, where some witnesses reported, according to the blog, seeing a Mothman type figure lurking on the apartment building rooftops as they were, you know, just hanging out on the street there one night. And so they see this winged creature just kind of scuttling around the rooftops there, kind of like Spring Hill Jack fashion. That's the way I imagine it. And so they're able to flag down a cop, they say. And then what you have further on in the blog is the report from somebody representing himself as a police officer who says in the account that I filed a police report about the sighting because they saw it too.
Well, that should be easy to find.
I know, right? So I was really excited about this. And, since I'm not from the area, I put this forth to the group, to the Facebook group. And I said, hey, this is exciting. Look at this. It says that there's a police report. And, hey, who has tracked that down? Because I know, I do have a background in journalism and have gone to, my local police departments and looked at police reports in the past, but it's been a few years. And I know that, tangentially related Freedom of Information Act, when you're filing those requests, you have to, sometimes it can get pretty dicey. You have to make sure that you are asking for what you want to get in the appropriate fashion. So that's why I was reaching out to the group saying, well, and I didn't want to step on anybody's toes either if somebody was already pursuing this documentation. So unfortunately, nobody got back to me on it, to my repeated requests for information. And then later on, Tobias Wayland of the Singular Fortean blog reports to me that that while it was well understood by people in the investigative group that the report of a police report was unsubstantiated or that it was a bogus claim.
Okay.
And I'm like, really? Well, why is the account still on the Phantoms and Monsters blog with no notation to that effect? And also, why does it appear in Lon Strickler's book on the Chicagoland Mothman sightings with, again, is presented as if this was a real police officer reporting the incident. And then when you check it out, you don't find a police report. So what I had to do is just go around the investigative group, and I have a private investigator friend who has contacts on the Chicago in the Chicago Police Department, and he was able to do a search for me and find that there were no reports that even seem marginally related, like no strange animal or suspicious person or there was nothing related to what was reported available at the Chicago Police Department. So yeah, that was a serious red flag for me.
Okay. So yeah, they can go and correct that. I mean, a lot of it is hearsay and second and third person reporting when it finally makes it to you. And yeah, there's going to be things that are said that need to be corrected. So just correct it and move on, I would assume.
But that hasn't been done. And I think that's my issue. It's not that you shouldn't be open to accepting reports. That's not what I'm going to say. You got to be open to accepting reports from the public. But how do you vet those reports? And it seems that process is entirely missing.
One of the ways to do it, of course, is to have a third party or another investigator follow up on them.
Absolutely.
So follow up. Okay, like you did. Where's that police report? Who's the witnesses? Are they willing to talk to other people? Because one of the things they always talk about is witness testimony can be questionable at best. And if they get interviewed 2-3 times by different people, if their stories change or things don't pan out, that can be a problem. Now, if they're consistent and they're the same facts and same pieces of information they give you each time, then perhaps there's something more to it. But, one of the things that I see as a problem in the field, and Matt and I have talked about this before, is there's just there's this territorial possession. It's my stuff, it's my case. And I don't know if that's what's happening here, but you have to be open to have people verify it and check the facts. So, I mean, personally, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I don't know what else to say.
I agree. I mean, it was a real education for me, and not in the way that I wanted it to be. I met up with at one of the Chicago paranormal conferences. I met up with Sam Moranto, who is the head of Illinois MUFON. I don't know if you know him, but so he was excited because, unbeknownst to me, he had been watching all my videos from the field, and he was really thrilled because he you know, of course, Illinois MUFON is interested in these accounts, and so he was really overjoyed to share his information with me upon meeting me, and I felt all famous and stuff because he's like, "Is Allison here yet?" You know, like, it's great to have somebody watching your videos. I passed that crucial 300 subscribers mark. Yay!
Nice, nice. Congrats.
But anyway,
cool. Bring him over to this show.
That's just a drop in the bucket compared to the views that other people get that maybe aren't really delving as deep, and maybe I'm just saying things that people don't want to hear. I'm not really sure about that. And let's just be clear. I'm not saying that extraordinary things don't happen. I've been witness to some. I'm just saying, look, if you really are interested in investigating the paranormal, you know, you're not looking for fake stories. You're looking for the real deal. Right. And so you got to be willing to take this to the next level and vet what is being given to you. And if it doesn't pass muster, you got to say so to separate the wheat from the chaff. You just got to be able to be willing to do that. And, you know, sure, there's not going to be the volume of reports that, you know, like we had with the Mothman sightings, you know.
But if you think about that,
60 some in 2017. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Dave?
I was just going to say, you know, let's pause there for a second. You have a city of how many millions of people?
Yeah.
So you would think that the potential for more witnesses and more people seeing things would be higher. So I'm a little curious as to why there's maybe so few versus what happened in Point Pleasant. Because, you know, Jen and I went to Point Pleasant when I was transitioning back to Illinois for this job. We made that our halfway point. So we stayed there a couple times, get to know the town, drive around. It's really cool. Go where the bridge is and look at all the stuff. Go to the museum.
Did you get weird phone calls in your hotel?
No, I didn't get any weird phone calls. I didn't.
Don't forget the igloos. Have you been in the igloos?
No, we didn't we went out at night one time and parked close to that area at night, and then we didn't go to
the. So cool with the sound reverberation. They should definitely do some kind of rave in there. I mean, it's really
I'll have to tell her that.
I'm
taking you to the Point Pleasant Igloo, dear. She'll be like, "Oh, okay, that's
really fun. It is fun. Trust me."
Okay, so and it's kind of like that small town feeling.
Yeah.
So more people probably talk. So is that it? Is that more people were talking? They knew about it. They were friendlier. Go to Chicago. A lot of people, greater potential, but people are just, I don't know. Maybe there's a difference in what people are willing to report, or is the city just so damn busy nobody notices anything out of the ordinary?
I think it could be that.
I'm sorry. What were you saying, Matt?
No, I'm just saying I'm leaning towards that, like what Dave just said. I think you know, I mean, let's face it, Illinois, Chicago, you know, those areas, it's got millions of people, and you know, such a thing, you know, Mothman has only been kind of like, you know, limited to like small areas, like what you know, Ohio and you know, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and now the Chicago area. So it's not like I don't think he's been witnessed or people have had encounters with the Mothman anywhere else other than those areas. So I think it's a lesser known thing, but I think it's more of a like, you know, the city is just too busy to maybe pay attention to it.
Well, it could be that the culture is more insular, but I don't know, guys. I mean, Okay, think about it. A 7 to 8 foot tall, like gargoyle type creature that
Right.
is seen out in public on Lakeshore Drive. You know, it's like
Mhm.
flapping its wings. Sometimes it's screeching. You know, we're talking about 10 to 12-foot wingspan. I mean, that's huge.
So
And
Mhm.
yeah, are all the reports consistent of what they are seeing?
no, but
Okay. But
they are
generally,
generally consistent in
okay.
that, you know, that idea of the 7 to maybe 9 foot tall creature, 10 to 12-foot wingspan. I mean, that's fairly consistent. There was one report that was like more of a green kind of bug mantis type creature. And one
Okay.
of the witnesses that I got to talk to actually, he said, well, you know, my sighting was of it did have a, you know, scalloped wing, but it was a craft. It wasn't a humanoid. But still, his report got lumped in to the Mothman sightings.
Hmm.
And and you know, there's other sightings as well, like one just over the border, um in Indiana, where like two red lights were seen, you know,
Mm.
as if, I mean, why
Like the
isn't
red
that
eyes.
a fact? Yeah, yeah. I mean, they were
Hmm.
just, there's a lot of interpretation that goes into it.
Oh,
And
of course.
unfortunately, I really didn't want to think this for a long time. When I tell you the rest of the story, you'll understand maybe why I think this. But as you say, let me just get back to this point. As you say, like 60 some reports in 2017 maybe isn't that great when you consider the population of Chicago. And when you consider some of the, where a lot of the sighting locations are in very heavily trafficked areas, you know, just, and because I was there, you know, even at night, I was there all different times of day, and you're just getting trampled by people, and it's just amazing to think that somebody could have, you know, so private a sighting with some strange beast, and nobody caught any photos or anything, except there was one photo. We can talk about that one a little bit later, but so there was one photo from 2017, which we can talk about. This was another case that I had some issues with. But what I wanted to get to is, you know, perhaps there should be, as you say, more sightings,
Mm.
uh, because it is such a highly populated area. Now, why might sightings be lumped in altogether? Well, it's because um, a book. There was a book opportunity,
Mhm.
and the book needed to come out right on the 50th anniversary of the Silver Bridge collapse, which was December 15th, 2017.
Hmm.
And it's amazing that so many of these cases happen in time to get that book out on that date, which was again the culmination of the most famous Mothman sightings in West Virginia, the big
Right. Right.
tragedy that capped it all,
Mm.
um, at the end of that flap.
Mm.
So I don't know. I when I kind of I didn't realize that that's what was happening until, you know, the
Hmm.
book came out, and then I was like, oh, I mean, maybe that
Well,
makes a little bit
I
more
mean,
sense.
if you want to do an experiment, go down to the city of Chicago, walk down a crowded street and look up and go, "Hey, what's that? Wow, look at that." And you're telling me nobody else is going to look up and take a peek and see what that
Yeah,
is?
and
You
on
know?
one of my excursions, I took a friend of mine who, you got to understand who you're talking to here, because you know this person that I took with me, she's a ceremonial magician. You know, she's seen lots of strange things, including a
Mm.
dog man, um, and fairies. And I'm very open to these things. Please
Mhm.
understand me. I'm not trying to be a dogmatic skeptic here.
Right.
And she went with me to a lot of those sightings that were right in downtown Chicago, right along Lakeshore Drive, and she just was cringing at the implausibility. And then to top it, when I met Sam Maranto in October of 2017, he was telling me, well, he's been doing research on these accounts too. And he has been trying to vet these accounts. And what he had done is he'd take each case and he'd look at the weather data, see if that matched up with what the witness said. Look at the phase of the moon, see if that matched up with what the witness said. And then, I had a lot of those things too, where I was like, well, the location doesn't really match up. You say there's a 5-story building. There's no 5-story buildings in a huge radius of this area where you said it was. So he uncovered that there were multiple inconsistencies in what witnesses would report.
What would that be due to the time that elapsed between when they saw it and when they reported it? What was the general time difference between, or the time span between when they saw it and reported it? Because, we all know that your memory is not, mine gets worse every freaking day. So I know how that goes. I mean, I could look at a building, honestly, and I'm not defending anybody, but I could look at a building and then somebody could ask me, was it 4, 5, or 6 stories? And 3 days later, I'd be like, I don't remember.
Oh, this is from people who were purportedly living in that building.
Okay,
that's why.
Okay, you might want to know that. I live in a neighborhood with 2-story houses, so I'm good. Okay.
Right. Or one of the locations purportedly had Mothman standing on a basketball hoop and on the rim. And so I went to, it took me a while to find this little teeny little park. And it's not a park like that. It's between 2 buildings, and it's a kiddie park with no hoops of any kind. It's all like swings and slides and stuff for toddlers. So I was like, oh, another thing didn't match up. But I guess the kicker was when Sam told me that in the beginning of the flap, MUFON originally started receiving some of these accounts as well. Like when they first started, they got emails too, not just Lon Strickler's Phantoms and Monsters or the UFO Clearinghouse. MUFON was getting some of those reports. And in those reports, in the original 7 that they received, they found multiple reports that were actually from the same IP address. And with that, I have to go plug this in. Sorry about that. So I'm moving. Get a little tour of the house here.
Yeah. If it dies, we're gonna assume somebody cut your line.
Yeah. Right. It's just me being dumb and not plugging things in.
That's all right.
Huh. Interesting. So, go ahead, Matt. I'll let you ask some questions.
Yeah, no, what I'm interested in, kind of, from a person who's actually researching the Mothman, other than all the many books that are out there from, the eyewitnesses and encounters in West Virginia and Ohio, and the big famous bridge incident, and of course you have the movie, the Mothman Prophecies, which I love that movie. I just thought that movie was great. I don't know how true to the events it stayed, but I thought it was really done, really good. But anyway,
and the author Richard Hatem is very interested in the phenomena himself.
Yeah. Right. My thing is, I know there's a lot of talk as to, like, what could the Mothman actually be. I know there's a lot of talk as to him being an actual possible prophet, because whenever he appears, there seems to be like, a disastrous event. They say that he could be a humanoid creature. They say he could be an alien. They say there's a lot of rumors and a lot of big claims as to what it could be. What's some of your ideas with the sites that you've been to and the reports that you've read and your research so far? What are some of your theories?
Well, it's really hard to say. And I mean, it's Mothman has been seen in other locations. Let me just say that actually in the Mothman prophecies, John Keel talks about earlier in 1963 sighting in Kent, England, and I actually went there. I was researching something else, but while I was in Kent, I made sure I did a video on the sighting locations there. And that was a very similar creature, except he had web feet. And there's a lot of argument over what people thought it could be in that situation, because there were some allegations of a black magic circle. There's also multiple ghost reports in that area of Kent, England. And also there were strange lights seen with this apparitional moth figure. And so that brings in a possible UFO connection. There's lots of people who have pointed out too that the Flatwoods monster of Flatwoods, West Virginia in 1952 had some similarities to the later 1966 Mothman flap in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The most prominent being the red glowing eyes. Also, when I spoke at Hawaii Paracon this July, I was fortunate enough to go out.
You hear that, Matt? Hawaii Paracon. Tough life.
Yes.
Tough life.
HawaiiParacon.com. Check it out.
Invite me. I want to go to Hawaii. Damn
You should totally join us.
You can go, Matt. You just got to fly yourself there.
Well, yeah.
but anyway, I did a video on Mount Tantalus, which is overlooks the Diamond Head volcano on the island of Oahu, and there was a winged humanoid sighting there in 2004. So there have been sightings of similar creatures without any kind of tragic event that followed. Mm-hmm. And there's also I think it was a case in Germany in 1975 where some mine workers reported seeing a Mothman typed creature. I think it was called the Freiburg Shrieker or Streaker or something like that. Not Streaker.
I remember reading that.
Yeah, Shrieker. That's it. The Freiburg Shrieker in 1975. But you gotta take that one with a grain of salt, because that's when the Mothman Prophecies book actually came out, is that year. But right. Anyway, these mine workers said that they saw this huge Mothman type creature, dark, gargoyle-ish with huge wings, and it was shrieking at them and standing in front of the entrance to the mine, so they couldn't go to work. And that was a good thing, because before they could get in there, because that thing was standing there scaring them away, there was a cave-in that would kill them. So as far as whether it is like some portent of evil, or if it causes, some kind of curse or death and destruction, I don't know if that's really been substantiated. I know, of course, the Silver Bridge collapse was a terrible tragedy, but hey, there's no signs of anything really tragic happening in Chicago any different than normal.
Didn't the sightings in Point Pleasant stop after the bridge collapsed?
Right. So
that's why I think people draw that correlation.
Yeah. That's why I brought it up. Right.
So I got to ask, since MUFON was involved, did they notice any increased reporting of UFOs in the area and during the times people reported seeing the creature?
Yeah, they didn't. And that's another thing that's different from the reports in Point Pleasant, because UFOs were very much part of the whole Mothman Prophecies phenomena. So yes, I mean that was something that was very prominent in Point Pleasant. Again, another difference in Chicagoland. The other thing that John Keel noticed that wasn't mentioned by any Chicagoland witnesses is many of the witnesses to the Mothman in those Point Pleasant cases had, strange kinds of conjunctivitis and eye irritation that they associated with the sighting. So there were physical symptoms. The only symptoms reported by witnesses were in the Chicagoland case were like psychological, like a feeling of foreboding. The only exception to that was, again, that case that I was briefly mentioning, where I spoke with the witness, and he reported seeing a craft, not a Mothman type entity, but nonetheless, he did have some health consequences soon after his sighting, which he thinks may be related. But again, that's might be something different entirely, because it's not a Mothman type creature. It's like a scalloped winged, type craft.
Interesting.
When you go to these sites, Allison,
Yeah.
have you ever like encountered any kind of like weird phenomena like yourself or
No.
after it?
I'm
No?
so sorry to say that. I really wanted to. I mean, that's why I
Right.
do what I do.
Right.
And
Right.
let me say, should I tell you something weird I experienced? I mean, maybe if somebody heard like something I actually experienced, they wouldn't like take me for a dogmatic skeptic, as some people are trying to pigeonhole me that way.
Right.
And I don't think that's really fair, because I'm just reporting what I see. And if I see, oh, that's crack reporting, that is like, you are right on the money. You are really looking into the details. You're not letting anything get past you. Then I'm going to say that, but that's not what I saw.
Right.
And the thing that I experienced the only researcher, that I've experienced in terms of really that rigor is Sam Moranto, because again, he really tries to vet the reports. And I mean, that's great when you look into the IPs of where the reports are actually coming from, and you find that, multiple reports are coming from the same IPs. You have to ask yourself what's going on. One of the things that I also wanted to mention before we run out of time here is, I'll tell you a strange something or other after that, but here is also a strange theory for you. Okay, so Sam Moranto thinks that maybe something real was going on, but there's a disinformation campaign. So, and wouldn't that be the best way to cover up something real? Like maybe something strange did happen, and then some agency just floods the channels with bogus stories. Isn't that the best way? I mean, to confuse you and muddy the water so you don't know what's real and what's not, especially when the people taking the cases are just taking whatever anybody sends them and not even making sure,
But why cover them up? Why hide it?
Why hide what?
Why false information? Why misinformation?
Well, if there was a real, flying humanoid, okay, I don't know, maybe it's an alien. I don't know what it would be, and I'm not qualified to say what it would be, but let's say it's an alien or an escapee from a lab somewhere. You think the government wants people to know that or think that's real?
Right.
Okay,
I don't
probably.
think so. So
they can't tell us the truth on normal things.
Yeah, right. See, there you go. I rest my case. But the point is, wouldn't you want to just flood the channels with bogus reports so that people couldn't tell the difference? They're like, this is all a bunch of hogwash, because here, this guy, there's no police report, there's no this, there's no that. But what if one of the cases or two of the cases are real? I mean, wouldn't that still be spectacular? Some interdimensional rift opened and some strange creature popped up for a few minutes. I mean, that's still extraordinary, but you want to cover that up with as much.
Like you said, there's other sites where they've had multiple things. So you have the UFOs, you have the creatures, the Skinwalker Ranch out west, the sites that you noted. So this isn't just a restricted area phenomena, just Chicago and Point Pleasant.
Right.
And now, actually, before we run out of time, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what happened in Woodstock, which here's kind of a funny story. Jen is off producing a new show. She sends me a newspaper article or some clip or something for Woodstock Mothman thing. And I'm like, oh, cool. Thanks for sending that. You must know that Allison's going to be on the show. She's like, no, I didn't know at all. I just thought you'd find that interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'm glad that you posted it because I'm like, oh damn, I gotta go. I hadn't been going for a while because I got kicked out of the group when Lon Strickler found I was socializing and appearing on podcasts with Sam Moranto and expressing some viewpoints that he didn't like. So I got kicked out of the group. And then on the Phantoms and Monsters blog, Lon started to restrict the location data. And actually, the week that I appeared on Monster Quest, there was a sighting in my own city, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but no data in terms of location was provided, so I couldn't visit the site. So that seemed kind of interesting. Just the timing on that one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but anyway, I decided today to, I got to get out there and go to Woodstock because Tobias Whalen, who is a friend, Tobias Whalen and Emily Whalen from the Singular Fortean, they have maintained a relationship with Lon, and he is sending Tobias to talk to witnesses. It's hard for me because if I don't get to go talk to the witnesses, I just have to take somebody's word for it. Even though Tobias is great, I mean, it's kind of hard when you're just left out of the picture there. But anyway, there was enough information to locate the area of the sighting, and then so I had just received so many emails about it. People send me at any time there's a report, so I decided to go out there and see what I could see. And it was interesting because I got to talk to a local from the area who was walking his dog there. I did the sighting happened at Dewfield Pond, which is a nature conservancy area in McHenry County there. And so we walked out to the pond. We did see a lot of large bird prints. I'm not sure if those actually might have been, I was looking at pictures of the prints, and they might have been like Canadian goose prints, actually, although the person in the area that we were able to just run into said that he had seen sandhill cranes already back in the area, and sandhill cranes can be up to 5 feet tall and a 5-foot wingspan. Another large creature that is common in our area is the turkey vulture, which looked really huge. I had a nature presenter come to our school a few years back, and he brought one of those turkey vultures, and they're right up next to you. Wow, they are tall, and they have a 6-foot wingspan, and they're very black. So in terms of whether something happened there, well, it was a more plausible location. The road was quite busy, and there are houses along that strip, but I've got to say that that it was a very wooded area and very marshy. So something natural could be there. There are deer there, rabbits certainly. But again, it is fairly heavily trafficked, not as heavily trafficked as Lakeshore Drive though. So the creature was seen exiting the entrance of the Dewfield Pond location, and then rushing across the street and then disappearing in a Facebook group for locals of Woodstock. There was also some talk that I found really interesting. Somebody at first said that it was someone he knew hoaxing, but then retracted. So that was not verified. But the most interesting thing I was able to uncover from that is that there's something just a few, like about a mile down the road, the the Bull Valley monster. The Bull Valley monster. Bull Valley is like right there, really so close. Was something that was reported quite often in 1969. It might, according to some of the newspaper accounts I found this afternoon, it might go all the way back to the 50s, but it was more of a Sasquatch creature than this gargoyle creature that was seen, which was all black, winged, about 8 to 9 feet tall, rushing across the street. But it did have, interestingly, gray fur. And so this creature that had been seen, as the Bull Valley monster was actually a white monster, more like a Yeti Sasquatch type creature. So, maybe that was just an older generation of this new beast. Only time will tell. But it's fun when you find historic tales of some huge beast in the area. So I was just thinking it was a huge bird, but maybe there's some connection there to those older stories.
What I find really interesting, guys, is like, when it comes to those historic encounters and reports, it kind of is in correlation to the same dates, like same time period, the 60s, give or take a couple of years here and there.
Yeah, that was a huge flap in 1969.
Yeah. So I find that's interesting,
So my feeling is that I'm not saying there's nothing to these cases. I'm saying we got to be careful. We got to really vet these things and not just take all comers, because how are you going to be able to tell what's nonsense and what's something real? And, we don't have that much time to devote to fakery. I think we really have to drill down and give the cases that merited our attention and just cast the other stuff, the nonsense, to the side. And that's what I'm all about. And just one last thing. I've seen an orb with my eyes. So I know that strange things do exist. It was something that happened at a haunted location. Well, it's a much trumped up haunted location that I didn't expect to happen. I was like, if any place is haunted, it isn't this place. And then I looked up from what I was doing and saw this ping pong sized orb fly across the room towards me and whiz past my head. Now I saw this with my eyes, and then I was kicking myself for all the years on my ghost tours when people would show me orb photos, and I had to be honest, there's so many different things it could be, but now I have a whole different perspective when you see it with your own eyes.
Sure.
And
So
then later,
what's the location? You gonna tell us?
What was that? Oh yeah, it's Old Baraboo Inn in Baraboo, Wisconsin.
Nice.
Later, I was to find that other people have reported being dive bombed by orbs in the same fashion, and I had previously.
Way back in the day, our group, the Southern Wisconsin Paranormal Research Group, investigated that location.
Right, and the owner of BC Fire is awesome. It's just that he's so enthusiastic about being haunted, and he knows it's really good for business. That's why, to me, it was like, well, I don't know if I really believe. And then there's a stupid orb flying at my head. I was so mad. Why couldn't it be something cool? Now I got to tell people I saw an orb. Embarrassing. Yeah. But I will tell you what happens whether I like it or not. That proves it.
Yeah. Why not a Mothman flying past your head?
I know, right? I just feel like it's all true. Believe.
Well, great. Yeah. Do we have any questions from anybody in the chat room or anything, Matt?
No, actually, the chat's been pretty quiet, but that's okay. We have about 5 minutes left of the show. Allison, how are some ways people can reach out to you if you have any kind of website or information?
Yeah.
What kind of events you have coming up you'd like to share with our viewers?
Oh, yeah. Well, I will be at the Old Baraboo Inn on March 16th to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. I'll be reprising my presentation called Scary Fairies, which is a cross-cultural analysis of fairy encounters around the world, including video clips with experts and experiencers, from, you know, Hawaii to Bhutan to the UK, you name it. There are people who have extraordinary experiences with something very similar, even though they're from such disparate parts of the world. So that's coming up very, very soon. I have a lot of different speaking engagements. I do have Hawaii Paracon coming up in July. If people would like to know more about that, they can find all about it at hawaiiparacon.com. That's people's opportunity to hear from indigenous perspectives, to hear, you know, what Native Hawaiians, for example, consider the paranormal, and to learn about their teachings on the subjects. So I would encourage everyone to come and be part of the event. You know, you get to go to these authentic locations with a Native Hawaiian, my friend Lopaka Kapanui, who organizes the conference. And Lloyd Auerbach's going to be there this year, speaking with us, Professor Paranormal himself. So I'm really excited about that.
That's cool. Nice.
And of course, there's youtube.com/Mothman. I mean, that's a really easy URL to remember, right? So just go there and subscribe. Every time somebody hits that subscribe button, oh, I just get the warm fuzzies you can't believe. So please just hit the subscribe button. I'll love you forever. And of course, othersidepodcast.com. You can hear me every week talking about paranormal stuff. And you know, so if you like all this blather, if you like to hear like a more skeptical approach to the paranormal, then you might be used to some other podcasts, then check us out.
Cool.
Great.
Well, I hope we were gracious hosts.
You were. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you thinking of me, and yeah, anytime I'd be glad to come back on.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, we only run our show for an hour, and we could go on and on and on, talking about various subjects in the paranormal, and like there's just so many things and not enough time to cover everything. But we'd definitely love to have you on again in the future. That'd be great.
I would love that, because I'm not all Mothman. I just got looped into it and keep getting pulled. I thought I got out, and then they pulled me back in.
It's an interesting topic. It's local for me, and I find it interesting, and I think a lot of other people do too. And to hear about it in another location besides what everybody knows in Point Pleasant, it's fascinating.
Right, and check out that Bull Valley monster, because that's right in your neck of the woods. And I'll be posting some articles about it.
Cool.
Yeah. Me and Dave to go investigate it when I visit him in April.
Yeah,
that's right. You're looking to come down in April. So yeah, we got a lot of places. We're going to drag him to all the sites. Bachelor's Grove, Chicago. Might have to go to Woodstock now.
Ooh, maybe I can maybe I could be a part of that too. Yeah, I'd love to visit sometime, Dave, and like meet you at one of those great coffee shops in Woodstock. There's a great little bakery that I love.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Jen and I are always looking to get out and find some cool places to visit. So definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Definitely. All right, great. I hope everybody enjoyed our guest, Allison Jornlin, and I know I did, and Dave did. Allison, again, thank you again. We're very honored that you took the time to be on our show. The show gets uploaded immediately because we're live on YouTube. So hopefully there's millions of viewers watching our show.
Yes, and they'll all subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/.
We'll share.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
I'll share too. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
thanks,
no problem.
Allison.
Yeah, thanks. All right, guys. So we're gonna end the show here. Once again, if you'd like to contact me or Dave, hate mail could go to the Fifth Dimension Radio Show at gmail.com. Let us know if you love or hate the show. Either way, we'd love to hear from you. If you have questions regarding past guests, future guests, or topics we don't cover enough, if there's anything at all you'd like to give us a shout, feel free. Dave, any closing thoughts?
No, I just like to thank Allison for coming on the show. It was interesting, and just to emphasize, I think it's good for other investigators to have access to information and to get out there and follow up on these things, because, there's a lot of credibility issues in the field already. So the more you can look into things and verify stuff, that's only going to bring more credibility to the field. And if the witnesses are willing to talk to other people, there's no reason that shouldn't happen.
Yeah. Share. Everybody share. That's the key word of the night.
I
Share.
wholeheartedly agree. Let's
All right.
all sing Kumbaya and hold hands as well. I mean it, I really do.
All right. So everybody that's watching, have a great weekend. Enjoy. Be safe out in the weather, and we'll see you next week on the Fifth Dimension Live Video Podcast. Everyone have a great night.